Hello everybody, Coach Larry here, coming at you live from the pool Sunday night, 1-to-1. Thanks for joining us. As you can see, the pool is pretty quiet right now, but there are pools all over the country right now that are being filled with blazing speed. Here in Charlotte, all across the country, we have seen some really cool stuff going on. We had nationals going on last week in Atlanta, Georgia. Right here in Charlotte, we had some really cool meets taking place with some awesome swims. People all over the country are swimming their mid-season meet. This is pretty much of a halfway checkpoint during the short course season. So I want to say congratulations. We've had several swimmers who have just dropped some serious time this weekend, implementing strategies, implementing really good technique, and just plain getting out there and racing. And I can't emphasize that enough, the importance of just getting out there and racing. Sometimes we do get kind of caught up in strategy, and sometimes we get caught up in technique, when those are really important things, but we've got to remember that we are trying to go as fast as humanly possible. So remember to race. If you're at a meet coming up next weekend or the weekend after that, because there are a lot of swimmers who still have their mid-season meet coming up, get out there and race. Look at the person next to you. Look at that person next to you and beat them. Okay? We want to beat people. We want to be nice to people. Of course, we want to have great sportsmanship, but you know what? We want to beat people. We want to swim fast as we can. So, congratulations to those of you who had meets over the weekend. Awesome job. Good luck. Best wishes. All of that great stuff for those of you who have meets coming up either this coming weekend or the weekend after that. Really exciting. In fact, we had some people here at having their 1-to-1 sessions today. We had Aaron, we had Austin, we had Thomas, we had Kylie, all getting ready for their mid-season meet. So I want to wish you guys well, best wishes. I know Kylie is going to Orlando, and Aaron is going to Ohio, and Austin is going to Orlando, and Thomas, who is here today as well, heading to Denmark. Okay, this guy doesn't let borders stand in his way. He's going international, so best wishes to him as well. So a lot of what we worked on today is what we're going to be talking about tonight, and it's a conversation that we started last week, which was grab the wheel, the importance of head position in swimming. Before we get into that, I want to do a quick shout out to some special people who have taken the Santa's Challenge, and they are going out there and impacting our community. So far, just to give you a heads up, as a reminder, I got a call actually from the North Pole a couple of weeks ago. Santa himself, Saint Nick, reaching out saying, you know what, I want you to offer everybody who takes a 1-to-1 session during the month of December a $25 discount with one condition. And that is that the swimmers who get that discount would take that $25 or a portion of it and reach out to someone in their community, someone who needs a helping hand at this time of year, whether that's someone who's homeless, whether that's someone who is having a really hard time, or maybe it's just someone in the community who doesn't get shown a lot of appreciation. Maybe it's a police officer that you see over at the gas station. In fact, I saw a police officer this week. I had to put my money where my mouth was. I was over at one of my favorite places on earth, which is Quick Trip. I don't know how many of you know about Quick Trip, but those of you who know me very well, you know that Quick Trip is one of my favorite places. I don't know why a gas station would be one of my favorite places, except they have the best coffee on the planet at Quick Trip. But it's a great place, and there are a lot of police officers there, so I got a Quick Trip card. I gave it to a police officer, and I just wished him well, and I said, you know what, we really appreciate all that you do in our community. So in fact, I hear a siren right now. Wow, incredible timing. There's actually a siren going by right now outside of this pool. So if you hear it in the background, I promise I'm not in trouble. At least I hope I'm not. Yeah, there it goes. So anyway, let me bring you up to date. We've had 12 swimmers who have taken up the challenge of reaching out in the community with their $25. And a brother and sister, Kylie and Alex, I just learned of this weekend. Really cool, quick story. Alex was at a high school swim meet this past week, and it was a tri-meet. It was his high school against two other high schools here in the Charlotte area. And one of the high schools did not have proper uniforms. For one reason or the other, whether it was budget constraints or what have you, they didn't have the proper uniforms. And Alex thought to himself, and after the meet, he said to himself, and he said to his mom, he said, you know what? We should reach out with the $25 discount and help those guys get their uniforms. And so that's exactly what he did. In fact, he and his sister Kylie, they're going to be taking 3 lessons in the month of December. That's $75. They're giving that $75 to that team, and that the team needs $400 to bring their uniforms up to speed. And so here was a really cool example of 2 one-to-one swimmers who just said, you know what, I'm going to try to make a difference to people in my sport. And that's really cool, you know, because obviously in this sport we're all trying to win, we're trying to get better, but it's also there's an amazing amount of camaraderie in this sport. And so I just want to tip my hat to Alex and his sister Kylie, who have reached out to another set of high school swimmers here in the Charlotte area and made their experience and their Christmas time that much better. So I'm excited for those of you who are taking this challenge. I want to encourage you, send me some emails. Let me know what you're doing with that $25 as you reach out in the community. And by the way, those of you who own a business, I want to encourage you. If you own a business, you probably have the ability to reduce your, to give a 10% discount or a 20% discount. What can you do with that money? Encourage the people who do business with you to take the 10% or the 20% discount and go out and do something great in your community. It will spread, I promise. And it's really cool to see what happens. Really cool. Just 1 or 2 people, and that spreads and it spreads, and it's a really cool domino effect. So awesome. Way to go, Alex and Kylie. And best wishes to the rest of you as you reach out in your community. Okay, so that's Santa's challenge. Now my challenge to you is to grab the wheel. Let's get down to the topic at hand, and that is to grab the wheel. Remember, when you're driving a car, maybe some of you drive, some of you may not drive yet, but maybe your parents drive. Okay, a very, very important aspect of your vehicle is the steering wheel, because whatever happens with the steering wheel impacts the entire car, right? You turn the wheel to the left, the car goes to the left. In fact, every part of the car goes to the left. The hood, the tires, the roof, the coveted car stereo, the back seat, the front seat, everything goes to the left. Or you turn it to the right, everything goes to the right, because what the steering wheel does impacts the entire car. Well, as you learned last week, if you joined us last week, and if you didn't, just check it out because it's on Facebook. The head position in swimming, the head is the steering wheel of the body. Whatever the head does impacts the entire body. And last week we had a very special guest, Coach Bob, join us, and he is going to make a command performance this week, and he has returned to the set as the incredible head coach, the true brains behind this operation, the humble one, the all-knowing, well, not really all-knowing, sorry Bob, but the very wise Coach Bob, because what Coach Bob realizes is that he's got everything it takes right here to steer the body really well in swimming, and that is the head. The head is the steering wheel, okay? The head goes to the left, the body's gonna go left. To the right, the body's gonna go right. If it goes up, if it goes down, whatever it does, the body is gonna follow. So it's important. There's a sense of urgency. When someone tells you to grab the wheel in your car, there's a sense of urgency there. You need to get a handle and grab the wheel of your swimming to take charge and take command of your swimming, because what the head does, everything else is impacted by it. Last week, thank you, Bob. All right, Bob will be back in a minute. Last week we talked about freestyle and the importance of head position in freestyle. This week we're going to change gears a little bit. We're going to talk about butterfly and breaststroke, which by the way are almost identical strokes. Even though they may look very different, so much of the foundational principles of butterfly are the same foundational principles of breaststroke. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about applies to both. So let's talk about the head position and why it's so important. Let's start out with butterfly. Why is the head position so important in fly? What do you want to do in butterfly in order to take full advantage of the head position? Well, basically you want to do almost nothing. You want to do a lot, by doing almost nothing. The head position in butterfly should change very little throughout the stroke. In fact, there should be very little independent head movement. There should not be a lot of chin lifting and forehead dunking, okay? We want the head to stay in line with the spine. Bob, let me grab your spine here. Okay, foam roller, Bob's spine, obviously Bob's head. So much of what we want to do in butterfly is keep the head in line with the spine. And why do we want to do that? Well, here's a couple reasons why. First of all, when you keep your head in line with your spine, it reduces resistance. Now remember, back here behind me is a pool filled with water. And that water presents a problem. And that problem is resistance. But we can't swim without it. We got to swim with it. We got to have a good partnership with the water. So we want to reduce resistance as much as we can. So if Bob here is swimming in butterfly, okay? And now what happens if this happens? Okay? He lifts his head, he lifts his face. That increases resistance. Why? Because his face is like a snowplow. Okay? If you are pushing through the water like this, okay, rather than having your head in the proper position and cutting through and driving a channel through the water, it's going to create a lot of resistance. Here's the deal in swimming. We want to reduce resistance as much as possible, don't we? We want to increase propulsion, but we want to reduce resistance. The head position can help reduce resistance when you have the head in the proper position. We want to reduce resistance, right? Okay, so if the face is up, you're plowing water. Not good. What else happens when the head is raised like this? Okay, because you see a lot of swimmers coming way up for the breath in their butterfly, and it starts underwater, and they raise their face like this. Well, look what's happening. What's happening? Well, the back of the neck bends, and the back starts to drop, and then there's an arch in the back, and the hips start to drop. In other words, whatever the head starts doing, when the head looks up like this, it creates this situation where the hips drop, and you start having kind of that Fred Flintstone effect, where you're traveling through the water at an angle because part of your body is riding low, it's dragging low. We don't want that, okay? We want the head and the body, okay? We want to reduce resistance however we can. So we want the head, if the head is staying in line with the spine, then we're not having this Fred Flintstone effect of creating a lot of drag. So keep the head in line with the spine to reduce resistance. Remember, reducing resistance is key. The second thing is this. When your head is out of position, when your head is out of position in butterfly, another thing that happens is you disengage the core. You disengage the core. What does that mean? That means basically your core drops. It stops being like a solid surfboard. All you have to do to try this out is swim some really bad butterfly. Okay? So land in the water and immediately go like this. What you'll see happening is you'll feel your core stop being solid, and it will basically get loose, and it will drop, and your hips will drop. And again, that's no good. Again, we do not want to go through the water like a wiggly noodle. Okay, we want to go forward through the water solid as a rock. Remember what I talked about gymnasts a couple weeks ago. If you didn't see that Facebook Live, you can go back. Why are gymnasts so good at swimming, especially butterfly? Why? Because they're rock solid in the core. I would just challenge you, if you know anybody who's come from the world of gymnastics to the world of swimming, watch how they do in butterfly. They kill it. Why? Great core strength. And that's what we want. And we don't want anything getting in the way of our core when we're doing butterfly. Well, guess what? If you lift your head out of position, the core disengages, it drops, you arch the back, the hips drop, no good. Slows you down. So keep the head in line with the spine. When you drive forward for the breath, keep the head in line with the spine. Some swimmers, some of you may know Michael Phelps. Yes, I know there are some exceptions in swimming. One of the things that Michael Phelps does when he breathes in butterfly, he definitely lifts the chin. Okay, when he's breathing, you'll see him looking like this, okay, rather than like this. Now, one of the things about Michael Phelps is he can do some pretty amazing things, okay? He can do some pretty amazing things in some ways that are not orthodox. I would not teach that to someone, but it doesn't take away from the fact that Michael Phelps is an amazing athlete, and it works for him. And again, remember, within your technique, there's always room for a little bit of tweaking, but the foundational principles remain true. Even though Phelps has when he breathes, you can see the chin on the surface, his core is rock solid. It's locked in. But to help most swimmers, especially as you're developing and getting better in the sport, keep the head in line with the spine, keep that core nice and solid. So we want to reduce resistance with a proper head position. We want to keep the core engaged with the proper head position. And finally, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we maintain forward momentum. One of the most important concepts that you can ever embrace in the stroke of butterfly is to make sure that everything you're doing is sending you forward, because there's such a temptation. There's such a temptation to go up and down and up. Now, it's true we want to have a nice dolphin motion, but we do not want to have a lot of momentum going up, and we don't want to have a lot of momentum going down. Why? We want the momentum going forward, because that's our destination. Our destination is the other end of the pool. So we want to keep that forward momentum with excellent head position as best we can. The other thing too about that forward momentum is this, okay? When you land in the water in butterfly, okay, one of the most important things that you want to do is get a really good catch position. That's where you hold onto the water and anchor your hands and drive yourself forward. Now, what happens when you lift your head like this? What happens? Most of the time, the elbows will drop and you will end up pushing yourself up toward the surface. Now, that's very natural too because of the survival mechanism. Where's the oxygen? It's up there. It's very difficult to maintain the self-control to make sure that you are driving forward instead of driving up. So we want to keep that head position really solid so that we help the catch, okay? Because the catch, we want to make sure that we're pressing the hands back toward the hips, so we go that way instead of dropping the elbows and pushing up. Again, that's not our destination. In butterfly, we're not going that way, okay? We're going that way. So you want to do the things that help you go that way, not that way, so you go faster, okay? Okay, so head position and fly, so important because number one, it reduces resistance. Number two, it keeps the core engaged, and an engaged core is critically important to butterfly. And number three, it gives you that forward momentum. Now, how do you make sure, what are some things that you can do to make sure that you are going forward with that proper head position? Well, first of all, you want to make sure that you think about driving forward for the breath with the top of your head, okay? Top of your head. Now, obviously, you can't keep your head in the water when you're breathing. There has to be some angle. But what we don't have to do is we don't have to lift the face. We just have to slightly angle the body and drive forward with the top of the head. So that all we need is a little bit of clearance, just a little bit of clearance underneath the mouth to be able to grab that breath. Now that's pretty tough because that goes against your survival instinct. Okay, you want oxygen and you want to go that way for oxygen. Keeping your mouth close to the water is risky, so you have to be careful. But you can do it. Okay, so drive forward with the top of the head. Goggles should be angled down. Okay, one of the things that Coach Russ, a buddy of mine, Coach Russ over at SwimMac Carolina, talks about all the time. He talks about this, imagine you have a Pinocchio nose. Okay, Pinocchio's nose is a little longer than Coach Bob's. You got a great nose, Bob. So what you want to do is you want to think about that nose being about 3 or 4 inches long and the nose just scraping along the surface, just scraping along the surface of the water. That will give you enough clearance to get your oxygen and you'll be good. You'll be good to go, okay? So drive forward with the top of your head with your goggles angled down. Pinocchio nose. Also, another good concept to think about is the oxygen that you want. The fast oxygen is the oxygen that is very close to the surface of the water. The slow oxygen is up in here. So think about driving forward with goggles down to go get the fast oxygen right here at the surface of the water. That's what we want. Okay? All right. One quick note. The head doesn't stay steady the entire time in butterfly. Okay? Once you grab your breath, you want to get that head back down into the water. Okay? So, kind of a good thing to think about is once you grab your breath, go ahead, pretend like there's an apple. There's an apple on the surface of the water, and go ahead and go after that apple. It's called bite the apple. Okay? So, grab your breath and get that head. Lead with the head, and that's where there is a little bit of head, independent head movement. But when you're going for the breath, okay, and when you're underwater, keep that head nice and steady. Drive forward. Once you grab the oxygen, boom, you can get that head right back down into the water. All right, so that's butterfly. Okay, so we're talking about the steering wheel of the head, leading the body forward. It impacts the entire body. Butterfly, all about solid core, great forward momentum, and reducing resistance by proper head position. And swimmers out there, remember, ask your coach. One of the best things you can do during practice is to raise your hand and say, Coach, can you take a look at my head position? Believe me, coaches want to be asked questions. Don't we, coaches? Yes, we do. All right, so raise your hand, ask your coach to come over and take a look at your head position during your butterfly. He or she will tell you whether or not you're doing a good job. You got to get that feedback. Don't assume that your coach is too busy, or if your coach is chatting it up with another coach, right? Sometimes we as coaches tend to get a little chatty on deck. So break up that conversation, call your coach over, and ask for feedback. The coaches won't mind. That's what they get paid to do, right? So bring them over, ask questions, and you'll get that feedback. All right, now let's talk about breaststroke. Breaststroke is a pretty, it's a pretty complicated animal in and of itself. I don't want to go into all the depths of breaststroke tonight, except to say the importance of a steady head position, just like in butterfly. We do not want a lot of independent head movement in breaststroke. We do not want a lot of lifting of the chin and ducking of the forehead and lifting of the chin. You'll see that a lot, especially in younger swimmers. What are they doing? Well, they're going for oxygen. Remember, that's our number one thing in swimming. We can't breathe underwater. We got to get oxygen. So there's this temptation to lift the chin and get that oxygen. And then there's a temptation to get the head back down really quickly into the water. Well, what does that do? That sends a lot of momentum in the wrong direction. Okay? If there's a lot of head lifting of your chin, and then driving down and ducking of the head, that's a lot of momentum going up and then going down. And we do not want momentum going up and down. We want momentum going forward. So we want to keep, just like in butterfly, okay? This is where breaststroke and butterfly, of course, here's Bob's spine, Bob's head, okay? In breaststroke, we want to keep that head in line with the spine, driving forward for the breath with goggles angled down. We do not want to get into this business. Because why? Same thing as butterfly. What happens? The back sags, the hips sag. We drop the hips and we start swimming low in the water. And you do not want to be swimming low in the water if you want to be doing fast breaststroke. Fast breaststroke is very engaged. It's very aggressive. It's very active. It's very close to the surface of the water. And the head position will help you not only reduce resistance, but it will help you keep your core engaged. And we want that core to stay nice and engaged in both in breaststroke and in butterfly, like we talked about earlier. And of course, we want that momentum. We want forward momentum in breaststroke. Yes, we do come up fairly high. We come up fairly high, but we want the head to stay in line with the spine and then drive and dive that head forward toward the other end of the pool. We do not want to dunk the head. We do not want to drive the head up and down and up and down. No, we want to go forward. Remember, our job is to go as fast as possible. We want to use momentum. So, steady head position, not a lot of independent head movement. We want it driving forward. We want to reduce resistance. We want to keep that core engaged. In fact, I was swimming just last week, and as an experiment, What I did was, when I was gliding in breaststroke, what I did, instead of keeping my goggles down and my head in line with my spine, I lifted my face, and I immediately felt my hips sag. Just try it. Try it this week. Just don't try it a lot, because you don't want to have a bad habit. But just do it once or twice so you can feel the impact, okay? You can feel the impact of lifting the face while you are gliding in breaststrokes. Not good, okay? Keep that head in line with your spine, because that's how we do it. So we want to go forward for the breath. Drive forward for the breath. How to do this? One of the ways you can do it is while you are up for your breath, to make sure you're not lifting the chin, make sure you can see your hands shooting underneath you. You should be able to watch your hands shooting forward underneath you as you are getting ready to drive back into the water. Another thing you can do is pretend there's a tennis ball under your chin, okay? And you want to keep that tennis ball there. If you lift the chin, the tennis ball falls out. And of course, if you duck the chin too much, it doesn't feel too good. So pretend that there is a tennis ball under your chin. That'll help you stay nice and steady. Okay. All right. So that is butterfly and breaststroke in a nutshell. If nothing else, if you take nothing else away from this teaching, take away the importance of a steady head position in butterfly and breaststroke. Driving forward with the top of the head in butterfly, making sure you get a really nice low breath, get that fast oxygen that's really close to the surface, okay? Breaststroke, keep that head in line with your spine, because we want the core to stay engaged. We want to reduce resistance, and we want forward momentum, because that's where we want to go. Forward, forward, forward. In breaststroke, in butterfly. Don't just go through the motions, guys. Don't just do this with your arms and fly. Make sure you are driving your fingertips forward when you land. Make sure you're getting a really good catch, so your elbows are high and your fingertips are low, so you're driving yourself forward. Everything's forward. How about your kick? Both the breaststroke kick and the butterfly kick. Don't just go through the motions. Make sure you're thinking about, is my kick propelling me in the direction that I want to go? You want to always be putting it through the grid of forward motion, reducing resistance, forward motion, momentum, all of that is your friend, and that'll help you go faster. And then the power of habits. You got to do this over and over. I know some of you have been through some practices that are really boring, okay? But boring sets, whether it's exciting or boring, but boring sets especially, work on establishing habits. Because we talked at the beginning of this broadcast about how so many swimmers are at swim meets right now. What you do at a swim meet is a reflection of what you do over and over and over again during practice. The power of habits cannot be overstated. So develop these great head position habits, okay? Remember, Coach Bob, make him proud. Head position is the key. It's the steering wheel of the body. Whatever the head does, it impacts the entire body, just like whatever the steering wheel does in a car impacts the entire car. Okay, so that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, be sure to fire off some questions to us. You can go to our website at iswim121.com and find out more information. And for those of you who are going out there and taking Santa's challenge, go impact the community for good. It's really a cool thing. All right, hope you guys have a great week. Best wishes to you guys who are going to meets this coming week. Congratulations to those of you who had your mid-season meet this weekend. Way to go. Keep it up. And then get ready for some great Christmas training. All right, have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.